Hello everyone, in today's lab I'm going to show you a cool little shortcut to cutting geometry from one shape into another. So in this case today we're going to do a sphere and a cube. So it's a tool called Boolean cut. Now they've made it a lot more advanced than it used to be, this tool. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. The first thing we're going to do, and this is actually something that we've done with the shield, where we're kind of putting bolts on instead of whatever. You'll get the idea here in a second, but we were basically cutting out the hole for the bolts and then combining and merging the bolt to it. And realistically, to get the geometry that you want, it's a much better and safer bet to do. However, let me show you how it works. Now, the better way to do it is going to be the slightly longer way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create this cube here, okay? And I'm going to create a sphere. And I'm going to drag that up, rescale it a little bit. And I'm going to shift select both of these, press Control D, and then I'm just going to move them over so I have it set up for the other example I'm going to do. So now that I've got this cube and I've got this sphere and I want to cut this sphere into this cube, you wouldn't cut it into it any other way. So the short way, if you watch the shield video on that lab all the way to the end, I show you that you know, if you're struggling with that, just place this in its proper place and then combine the objects. But we're going to do the opposite here. We're going to take that sphere and we're going to cut into it the opposite way. So actually these two probably won't work. So with that being said, I want to have this sphere cut into this cube. And the way we do that is we are going to select one shape, hold shift, and select the other one. I'd love for you to play around with all these. So I'm going to show you kind of how they all work, and it's really, really neat. So if I do mesh and I go to Booleans, and if I want to do a union, now they're combined. So you could do it that way, but the problem is if we tap 3, now this shape is very, very not what we're looking for. And the other problem with it is that we can never run a smooth on it. In fact, this might crash my software to go from low poly to a higher poly because the topology doesn't match. It's really awkward, and it realistically that could crash your software. So that being said, okay, I already undid the union. I'm going to go back to mesh, but I really want to cut into the shape, right? So I'm going to select one, shift select the other one. Oh no, I didn't undo enough. Okay, now I'm good. So I'm going to select one, shift select the other one. I forget the exact, if I should select one or the other first, but you'll see it gives you a couple options here. So now if I want to, you'll see it has this little circle cut out of a circle. So if I do difference A minus B, so let's go back. Let's do Booleans B minus A. And now you'll see that it cuts right into it really, really well. Now another neat little trick to this is now that Maya kind of knows that, you'll see it disappears, right? But as I drag it in, it starts to create that geometry for me. Let's see what it does with shading and wireframe unshaded on. And you'll see how these little lines, now you could go back and fix it all, but it is a neat tool to know how to use. So if I were to do this anywhere, on any side, it will. It's kind of a neat little trick. And it could be super cool for an animation, for something. Anyway, So now that I've got that sort of figured out, what you do if you were totally happy with the mesh and you weren't planning on doing anything else with it, you would do like an edit, delete all by type, and do history, and now you've got this cut in. But like I said, if you tap 3, it turns green because it's like inside out and all this kind of stuff, and it doesn't know what it's doing. So what I'm going to do now, and when an object actually turns green, it's telling you it doesn't know how to read the material on it anymore. So I'm going to assign a favorite material. We'll just do a blend. And you'll see that that's all good now. Or let's do existing material and let's do Lambert. Either way is fine. Now I've got this all cut out, but like I said, if I tap 3, it's really weird. And now if you wanted to fix this, you could grab your multi-cut tool. You could cut into these and get your topology looking super nice and neat and clean, but that would take forever. I want you to submit a screenshot of both of them, but one can be just this, right? I was just showing you really quickly how to cut into this and make it right if you wanted it to be like this. And this is a lot of geometry to cut into, so you know, do something like that. I'd probably cut one. Oh, it cuts all the way through. I would probably do something like this at 50%. And same thing on this one. Holding shift, you can do that with your multi-cut tool. 50%, and then I'd have to cut these in. And I would do this all the way around, right? If I needed the topology to be really nice and sharp and neat. But this is exactly what you would have to do to get this thing to sort of, at a bare minimum, have good topology. And it's really not in a super effective way to do it, because you see all this extra time I'm putting into this. Now, just to show you what it should, at least in one way or another, look like. To have somewhat reasonable topology on this thing, and then I would probably get rid of this one, and oh, I didn't finish this one. Grab my multi-cut tool, just to show you the painful way of doing this. Now, if you don't need to smooth and everything like that, you know, that could essentially work for you. However, at a full professional level, unless it's something that's supposed to be done just like on the fly real quick, you wouldn't utilize that technique very often. But here's one way that shape could work, and then I could do the little bevel edge, 2 segments, that's fine. And I could bevel these edges, and this is what we would call hard surface modeling. Oh, I don't want that one. And run a quick little bevel. And that's fine. But if I wanted to make these slightly closer, I could do like 0.1, and I get a slightly sharper. But now if I tap, missed an edge, and you'll see what it looks like. Ooh, missed that edge too. There we go. So now if I wanted to make it a little bit cleaner, sharper edges, I could even add a couple more bevels, and you'll see that I get a nice, clean, crisp edge around that. Now, if I select this object, I can also go back into polybevel 1, and let's make this 1.1, and this should be the circle. Yep, you see how it get a little bit sharper from, let's just say 1 to 0.1. You see that sharper edge, and then I could add additional segments. Let's just go with 4. And now I've got a pretty clean, sharp mesh if I were to subdivide this further. So if I were to do something in high poly modeling and I wanted to keep this and have those sharp edges, this is what they call hard surface modeling. Typically you're going to start with a lower topology, and then you would switch and go to your smooth, and now you'd have all this extra geometry, but you can do it on the fly and it'll cut up the geometry for you pretty well. I'm not partial to all of this kind of stuff, but that's just how I did it. But I wanted to just show you how it worked. So anyway, that's one way of utilizing it, and that's how you use the Boolean cut tool. But I feel like getting to that point, it just takes a lot. Now, if you start with here I'm going to do another cube, and then on this cube, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sphere. But on here, I'm just going to go to my polysphere and change this to 8 and 8. Right, and then I held V to snap to the vertex and just use my y-axis there, and now it's pretty much dead center. On my cube, I'm just going to adjust my subdivision to 2 and 2. Nope. 2. And now from here, what I can do, I'm going to select this, and this face, and I'm going to extrude them in. And if I can find my extrude tool, boom. And then I'm going to just do something like that. And then I'm going to delete them. And then on my object here, I don't need the top half. I know this is a couple extra steps too, but I feel like you're going to get much better geometry. Now, you'll notice the inside's black. I think I've talked about this once before, at least once. To have these normals, these are called normals, and basically what it means is what Maya can see. So if I do shading and backface culling, you'll see that in a real life rendering scenario, wireframe unshaded, the black part is something that wouldn't normally be able to render. Most softwares and everything can read it nowadays, even though it's on the flip side. But either way, I want to show you how to make it look right and what normals actually are. So if I go to, do I have to go to mesh display? And I can just do reverse. You could do set to face, all that kind of stuff, but I'm just gonna do reverse. And now all I did was reverse the normals. And I'm also gonna turn off my backface culling and shading and wireframe unshaded. Now I've got my sphere cut in here. I know it's a little bit less topology, but it's not that big of a deal to work with. So if I do my vertex, I'm going to snap each one of these to its proper vertex. We just basically did this with the shield a couple weeks ago. And I want to show you the difference when you smooth it. So now I'm going to combine these. Use my combine tool, select one, shift select the other, and then the little circle with the two polyplanes in it. And now I'm going to go to my vertex, and I'm going to merge vertices. And the threshold should be fine, 0.001. If yours isn't at 0.001, go ahead and change it. And now let's just go ahead and tap 3, and you'll see it's all one solid mesh. Now, we got to this point, and let me go ahead and create one more. In fact, yeah, that's fine. On this one, and I'm going to show you again one more time when I get there. This one, going back, I've got such better, cleaner topology on this. Doesn't look like I ever finished my topology over here. But the geometry basically, as far as a starting point, looks pretty similar, other than my sphere had a lot more topology in it, right? Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and start to bevel these edges. And then I want to show you what it'll look like when it's smooth. So I'll do the separate on the sphere again. I'm going to do bevel edge. I'll change it to 0.1 like we did with the other one, and I think I did 4 here. And the model's slightly different, so maybe 0.01. Yeah, that's pretty small. 0.05. That's good. And you'll see when I tap 3 now, I have that really nice, clean, crisp edge versus if it didn't have the bevel. So let's just see. Just gonna try to just hide it real quick. Won't let me do that. But you get the idea. I know you do. So now when I tap 1, I'm going to go around and I'm going to select all of my other edges. And I find this way to be, honestly, in the long run, it's a little work to get started. But in the long run, I find it's a much better way to do this. And I'm going to show you right now why. And I'm just going to do, I'll do 3, 4. I did 4 on the other one. I'll do 4 on this one. Go back to my bevel. Okay, I think that's right. So now you'll see that I've got this one. Tap 3. I tap 3. They both look pretty similar, right? And let's turn shading and wireframe on shaded off. You know, they're pretty much identical. But the one thing that's different is if I run a smooth on this, holding shift and right click, go to smooth, you'll see how much cleaner that topology is with the everything being a cube. This one, and this isn't terrible, like this is able to be, you know, you could work with it. If I run a smooth on this, it's just not as clean. It's harder to do things, you know, if you wanted to, you know, and I just mean this, I know this is on a much smaller scale than if it were on a larger scale, but starting out with something like this becomes much easier to work with. Like if I wanted to select these edge loops, I can do it with 2 clicks. On this, it's just like, it doesn't even know where to go. So that one worked, but you'll probably never get it to go around on these ones without really kind of finagling it, right? And it's grabbing them in the center sphere. It's just not a great effective way. It could work, don't get me wrong, but in the long run, this is a much better, easier model to work with as you continue going on it, right? Soften the edge. Do the same thing with that one. Now, you don't have to do this. I just did this one as an example. I want you to submit a screenshot. This is really, really basic, and you've literally already done this. I'm going to do a quick poke face so I can get this dead center, and then delete those. And then on this cube, well, let's see. Out of curiosity, I already messed with it, so it probably won't work. No. Okay, I just undid everything real quick just to try something. Our cube was a little bit different before. So I basically just told Maya, you know, I want to have the same starting geometry as I did with this one. And now I would like this one to do that Boolean cut again under mesh, Booleans, and Boolean B minus A, that'll work. Now, it didn't create those weird lines like it did before. So one was like coming from here going over to there, one of the edges, and then the other one, it just kind of created that geometry for us. Now it's not so bad. It actually has a base starting point, but it doesn't really work too well, to be really fair. But it does do the job. So anyway, you can see what the difference is between them. I was hoping it would create a little bit extra, but it didn't. All I'm looking for on your submission is to have, I believe I've got an example for you. I do. I have a screenshot of an example in the Canvas shell of what I'm looking for. I'm just simply looking to have a one that has the proper geometry as it's supposed to. And let's do poly smooth. Let's see if I can. So that kind of got rid of it. Division 0. So this is what it looks like in its base starting point. I just tap 3 on the keyboard and you'll see I've got that. But the reason for it is if you were, so you always typically want to start polygons or models, excuse me, when you're creating a mesh and a model, you always try to stay as low topology as possible. It depends on how much detail you're trying to pull out of it. But you would start with something like this, and then later point, if you wanted to add additional geometry to it, you know, you can very quickly and very easily and still be able to work with it very, very well. Whereas something like this one, if I were to, now let's just say I run a smooth on this, you'll see what happens. You have all this geometry in here and it's just, you know, it's not doing it what it should be. But you get the idea. Just see the screenshot for what I'm expecting on the submission. And then also just check the rubric as well. So submit a screenshot of both the models. In this case, I have 3, but I only need one of the ones that we did manually, and then one with a Boolean cut. Something like this one would be fine, and you can see an exact replication in the screenshot. Make sure this one has proper topology. That's the kicker. I want you to make sure that this one has proper topology. Cut the sphere into it. Add your bevels to create some hard edges, and make sure you're in smooth mode, or you run as smooth on the model, or both, when you're submitting your screenshot. So this is a short little video, but this technique can be utilized in so many different ways, especially utilizing this Boolean cut. If you're struggling to get somewhere with something, and you could probably use this tool and then adjust the topology to make it clean it up a little bit. Sometimes I know when you first start modeling, it can be hard to get some of these shapes that you're looking for. And this is one way you can do that quickly and effectively. But I always mind you, keep an eye on that topology, because that topology can really cause some problems with your software, especially in higher poly scenes. So just be careful how you use it, when you use it, things like that. But if you do have any questions on it, please don't hesitate to shoot me a message on Canvas. Be more than happy to answer your question as quickly as possible. And other than that, I got nothing else for you on this video. I just thought this was something that could be really utilized by a lot of you when it comes to trying to model things a little bit quicker and cleanly and effectively. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one, and stay tuned. Thank you so much.